Welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. I'm your host, Austin Becker, and this is your home for adventure, travel, addiction, recovery, the outdoor and ski industry, and of course, redemption. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. This week, we have a special guest, Zach McCarthy. I was recently connected to Zach through a friend of mine, Laura, who told me a little bit about what you're doing out in Maine. Maine's my old stomping grounds where I used to live, and he works. I don't know if you own Inclusive Ski Touring or how that works. I'll let you explain that to the audience. But he's helping people get into the backcountry and learn tactics with backcountry skiing. And yeah, this is our first time connecting, and I'm really excited to hear more about what you do. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of tell the audience what Zach McCarthy is all about.
Well, thanks for having me on here, Austin. The organization that I run and that I founded is called Inclusive Ski Touring. It is a nonprofit organization, so I don't own the organization per se. However, I am the executive director of the organization. We do have a board of directors as well. This past winter, we also had 2 employees to help facilitate everything, but we provide opportunities for people to try out ski touring or split boarding at little to no cost for the individual. And we also try to make these programs accessible for people of all backgrounds. So we do programs specifically towards underrepresented athletes through partnering with other organizations such as Outdoor Afro or a local Portland, Maine organization called the Kindling Collective, to be able to provide really a welcoming and safe group for people of any background to get out and try ski touring or split boarding. In addition to that, we provide programs that are directly geared towards getting into the backcountry. So many of our programs are based on resort to really get people comfortable with the gear, to get to meet other people, to learn the core skill set necessary. And then we also provide programs that's really an intro to backcountry program that takes people, that step further, moving away from the resort and getting them into the backcountry and really having that first opportunity to see what else is out there and where else they can go ski with this newfound skill set.
That's amazing, man. That's really, really cool. I didn't know that it was like that much of a program, and I am stoked to have you on here because I know a lot of people in Maine that there's always that barrier to ski touring, split boarding, whatever, whether it be the first thought that someone has. It's like out here in Colorado, especially, it's like, oh, we saw in the news how many people died this year, like in avalanches. We'll keep it to Breckenridge and like have our hot cocoa at the bottom. And I think that that is a genuine fear to have in the backcountry. But there is like a pretty heavy entry fee, you could so to say, whether it's the gear, the classes, the backcountry courses, rescue courses, area courses, whatever it is, that I think holds people back from getting into the backcountry. So the fact that you guys have set this up, that is incredible. For example, I was supposed to go touring this morning, and I set up this podcast specifically in the afternoon so that I could slide out, get a morning tour, and then come back, do the podcast, and things didn't line up with the crew and ended up falling apart. But I was thinking to myself this morning, like I got up early, I was having my coffee, and I was like, man, getting out in the backcountry is truly such a help to me in like my mental health, like my well-being, like everything about who I am. And I feel like I get into the routine of like, all right, I'm just going to drive up to Winter Park and I'll go ski 2 hours and then I'm done. And it like, I love skiing no matter what. It's my main source of income and it's my favorite thing on the planet. But I've been doing that for 25 years. And like jumping into the backcountry has boosted that ability for me to like find a new way to experience skiing. And anyways, that is awesome what you guys are doing, that you're taking away that like heavy entrance fear, cost, whatever it may be. So where did this all come from? Where did the idea come from? How did you, bring it to fruition to what it is today?
Yeah, so this started back in 2021, rather organically. I was still finishing up college at that time. And, a bit on what you touched on as far as just barriers to entry, I recognized that the financial barrier was really high. And then even if you took a huge leap and spent, maybe $2,000 on gear, then getting out to use it is incredibly high. And there's also so many misconceptions about the backcountry. Avalanches, of course, are an incredible danger. And having the proper education is so important, but also knowing that there is areas that you can go and ski tour or get into the backcountry that you don't have an avalanche hazard, and you really have an opportunity to get out and recreate in a way that allows you to enjoy nature and connect with the world around you outside of being on a ski resort.
Yeah.
And so, really recognizing a lot of those barriers to entry, as well as seeing that it was sometimes really hard to connect with other people in the backcountry community or to find other ski partners that it was, or to be able to get out with. So I really started hosting group programs through my own social media. I was posting on my story just that, we're going to meet up at this place at this time. Everybody's welcome. If you don't have gear, reach out, send us a message. We'll ask around, see what we can do. At that time, I was working in a ski shop, and taking most of my classes remote, and just started to host these programs really each weekend. We were doing one every Sunday, and throughout really about halfway through the season, I was just getting blown up really each week with a bunch of messages or different questions on where are we going, where are we meeting. So that's when I decided to get a bit more organized and had the idea or concept of inclusive ski touring. At first, it was really just an email list and a social media page just to send out information and say, all right, this is where we're going, and just to be able to provide things in a little bit more cohesive manner that was accessible for people to go and find out without just sending a message. And throughout the course of that season, we ended up getting out with 220 different individuals. So going into that upcoming summer, I really saw that there was a big demand for it, and I really loved what I was doing and wanted to provide that opportunity. I also recognized that I was, like a liability perspective, putting myself in a bunch of risk. And we didn't necessarily have full permission from the resorts. I didn't have any official partnerships with this. It was just like, all right, let's get together, let's make it happen. Sure, you can use this gear. And so, with the amount of demand and not wanting to have kind of everything just sit on my side, and also recognizing that the goal is never, to make a bunch of money from it, but really to just provide opportunity, I decided to found a nonprofit organization. So I got on the IRS website, found this application that's known as a 1024. It's like a 48-page tax written or tax lingo written IRS reading document. So, I'm no
Yeah.
expert at that sort of thing. I'm not an expert in corporate law, and really just worked through each line item one at a time, and tried to get help where I needed it. I wasn't in a place to hire a lawyer or anything to fill out this paperwork or to lend me a hand there. So got help from the community where I could, and ended up filing that in June of 2021. At that time we were going into really the COVID time frame, so the IRS got incredibly backlogged, and I didn't end up hearing back for almost a year. But we are officially backdated as a 501c3 to June 14th, 2021, I believe. Maybe give or take a couple of days, but it was after ski season in 2021 that we were really officially founded as an organization. And from that point, really started to take steps to become more formalized, organized with more volunteers, and provide more specific groups, and see what else we could do to expand our impact.
That's awesome, man. I I wish that there was more things like this happening everywhere. Um, I think, we talk about on this podcast a lot that skiers in a lot of ways are pretty, in some level, fortunate. There's a big barrier to entry, whether it's cost, whatever it may be, that I think a lot of times we take it for granted that we get to ski 100 days a year or ski 50 days a year or even 25 days a year, whatever it may be, that it's just part of who we are as skiers. And you forget that there's this huge community of people that probably will never experience it if they aren't given the resources or the help, or someone like you stepping in and being like, hey, actually you can come do this with us, you don't have to like pay for lessons, like we'll help you get there. We might even be able to like get the gear and this and that and whatever. And so it's something that's so needed, and super appreciative that you guys are doing it out in Maine, especially because I feel like the community out here in like the West and Colorado, Utah, and stuff, like everyone backcountry skis, whether they have like the knowledge or the skill set to actually be out there is another question. Like a lot of people just buy skis and pin bindings and like go out into really gnarly avalanche terrain and have no idea what they're doing, and like they make a lot of the statistic out of like recent occurrences. And so what you guys are doing is awesome. Um, Kind of your backstory leading up to 2021. I'm assuming you didn't think that this was going to be. Is this kind of your full time gig now,
Yeah,
inclusive?
so that's a huge sort of jump or leap that I took this year. There's definitely a substantial financial risk for me doing so this year. I was lucky enough to, have a bit of savings set aside, but inclusive ski touring really grew to the point that I could no longer just juggle it on the side of full time employment. And if I wanted to see the organization grow more, that I'd have to really give it my full effort and be able to put the time in throughout the year to continue organizing things, continue expanding. In this past year, we had 62 volunteers with 2 employees, and we got out with over 800 participants. We had
Wow.
3 locations, and so while we do have stuff in Maine, we also do have 2 programs that run in the New Hampshire area. And I'm hoping to get a third and fourth program, or potentially fourth, but at least um, at least one additional program going for the next season. So pretty excited to be giving it my full focus now, and we'll see what that can bring and what happens as I can continue to give it this energy. But
Yeah.
before everything there, um, for me, I grew up in southern Maine. I grew up in the Saco, Maine area. I was lucky enough to grow up skiing on the weekends. I was a weekend warrior with the family. We would go up, and that's where I really developed a love for the mountains and the outdoors. When it was time to go off for college, growing up in a small town in southern Maine, I thought I was missing, like the big city life of sorts and the party life and everything I saw on be it social media and pop culture and whatnot. So I thought it was a good idea to go down to Boston for a couple of years. I lasted 2 years down there before I really came to the conclusion that I was just not happy. My sophomore year, I definitely was a bit depressed at the end and was trying to sort of find myself and figure out, what it was that I really wanted to do and where I, got happiness and fulfillment out of in my life. And so I decided to move back to Maine and start to refocus on while finishing my school, also finding myself and getting back to my roots as far as getting into the mountains, going out skiing, going out hiking, biking, whatever it may be, but doing what I would always loved and what gave me genuine happiness. And so that's really the path that I started to go down. I ended up graduating in 2022. It took me a couple of years after, just taking classes on the side. I also lived about 2 hours away from my school, so commuting down to classes was a bit more difficult. And uh, as unfortunate as everything was throughout COVID, it actually gave me a great opportunity to take a lot more classes online that they weren't offering before in person. So I was able to, kind of speed things up there. And um, after I graduated, I was working. So I worked in a ski shop for quite a while before shifting over to work at a small ski resort that Inclusive Ski Touring just programs at now called Mount Abram. At first, I was working as the communications director there, and then the marketing director of sorts. Really, I was working hand in hand with the general manager at the time, a gentleman, Greg Lecce, who was really an incredible individual, and another woman, Ashley Coe, and kind of working with them as the management team for the mountain and trying to get things to grow. Through that work, I was able to help work on some partnerships with LL Bean that offered $35 lift tickets on Saturdays and Sundays, making it one of the most accessible ski resorts in the country, just financial price point wise. So that work I was fairly proud of, and we were able to see the mountain really grow and get to have a good bit more visitation throughout programs like that, and other programs that we implemented, such as the Community Pass program that provided free seasons passes to students of the local school district. Um, so really after school, my shift became towards one, like, I knew that I loved the outdoors. I knew that where I found the most happiness and fulfillment, and the most grounded, and what was best for my mental health was really all related to that. But I also recognized that um, there's so many barriers to get outdoors, and be it like one of my biggest grievances that I get frustrated with in the outdoor industry is financial accessibility, which in my mind is one of the simplest things. But they'll talk about representation, or I don't want to say like anyone specific or anything like that, but it's one aspect that consistently gets brushed over or not really addressed. And the reality is that to go skiing is incredibly financially taxing. For a family of four who's struggling to put food on the table, or worried about, like, the average GDP in Oxford County, which is where Mount Abram is it's like under $40,000, or maybe right over $40,000 for a family of four. Um, Now that's like crazy. If you're living like that, you can't afford to spend $500 for a weekend skiing. So how do you get out and actually have this accessibility or access to this incredible recreation that's really out your back door? Or for people coming up from afar, or from an urban area, who might not have friends or mentors to really show them the way or to introduce it to them, they're just looking at these price points and saying, well, I've never even been skiing, why am I going to spend $200-300 to go up and try this for a day, never mind the gas and giving up my day up off. And so I kind of put a pin in that tangent there, but really I wanted to work towards making outdoor recreation more accessible. And for me, the area that I had the most experience in and the biggest passion towards was winter recreation, or specifically skiing, which
Yeah.
then shifted towards ski touring and splitboarding with inclusive ski touring, as that's kind of the further passion of mine.
Yeah. Well, you're doing awesome work, man. Uh, Mount Abrams is that's a name I hadn't heard in a while, and when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, Mount Abrams. I've actually never skied there. I was a Sunday River warrior when I was living in Maine. Sunday River and Sugarloaf were my go tos. Um, so in terms of like inclusive ski touring, what do your events look like, so the listeners can kind of get like an idea of maybe they want to come to one of your events? Are these things that happen on the weekends? Are they group related, beginner, intermediate, advanced? Kind of what's the setup for each event or meetup?
Yeah, so I'll kind of break down from like a larger scale and lay out what the different events we offer are, and then kind of dive into kind of what a day of looks like.
Yeah.
So overall, I'll use this past season for example. We offered a women's program almost every Saturday at Mount Abram, as well as an open to all program every Sunday at Mount Abram. We also offered the open to all program every Sunday at Whaleback in Enfield, New Hampshire. And then we did an intro to backcountry program on every Saturday and Sunday at Mount Washington. In addition to those programs, we provided an array of programs focused on underrepresented athletes scattered throughout the season. So, we did a day in partnership with Outdoor Afro, a day in partnership with Latino Outdoors. We did our own BIPOC day, working specifically with individuals in the community. And then we had 2 days planned focused on queer individuals. However, the second day ended up not being possible due to the shortened ski season that we had on the
Mhm.
East Coast this year. But for any of so really, like, the main split is we have two different sorts of programs. We offer on resort programs that are volunteer led, and those are a really financially accessible price point that individuals are able to opt out of our costs for if that financial barrier presented is too substantial for them. And then we offer the Intro to Backcountry program. Now, the Intro to Backcountry program is a fully guided program. We have professional guides who run that program. And so there is a cost associated with that is in line with what is being offered there. And so we'll focus on really the on resort programs at first, because that's really like the bread and butter of what we do. And those
Yeah.
programs are absolutely open to first time uphill skiers and snowboarders. We do require that participants, unless specifically noted otherwise on a program, have downhill skiing experience. We are not professional downhill instructors. We can't be out there providing a one-on-one instruction with every individual on the downhill. However, we can absolutely teach and provide the education on the uphill. That is what our volunteers are specialized in, and where they have training, and what we're really prepared for. So for the resort programs, there is no official cap on the amount of participants. Typically, we have it open to 20 participants to start, and then if we see that fill up, we'll open it up to more participants if more volunteers are available to help facilitate that tour. And so for the gear side of things, we work with the ski resorts that we partner with to have an uphill demo fleet on hand. So I'll use Mount Abram for the example here. If a participant is showing up for one of the Sunday group programs, they would go online and be able to register for our program there. Our cost is $20, which again they're able to waive the cost of if they go in and use a no questions asked code right on the website. And then they're able to rent gear directly through Mount Abram. That is $40 at Mount Abram for an inclusive ski touring program. So it's a really accessible price point to be able to rent uphill gear at that financial point, and then be able to join our program. So all in for an uphill ticket, rental gear, and for the program to learn how to ski tour at one of these programs would be you know, $65 at Mount Abram. To do that with inclusive ski touring, and you'd have someone to really walk you through the entire step of the way. For participants who have their own gear, of course, they don't need to go out and rent that gear, but we meet inside the main lodge. There's a bit of a check-in process. Then we head out on snow, and we really do a group circle up, kind of go around, share names, some key information. We really want to provide an opportunity for individuals to meet other folks, and particularly, other people who they might be able to backcountry ski with or make connections with in the future. And share some core information there, maybe go over some skinning technique. And from that point on, we really start to work our way up the mountain. We take a lot of breaks. We have a no drop policy, as well as we really try to implement a no apology policy, which we talk about at the beginning of these programs. And really what that is asking participants to not apologize, to not say, oh, sorry, I'm slow, sorry that you need to help, but instead just saying, thanks for waiting for me. Thanks for the hand with this. And really trying to break that cycle that I think a lot of us fall into in all of our day-to-day lives, where, we apologize for the simplest little things where someone's offering us a gracious helping hand. And so we really just try to set the tone and the expectation that it's, we're here for everybody. It's a learning environment. You're not there to go up the mountain quickly or to get some super fast workout in, but that no one's going to be left behind. And it's an environment that's safe to ask questions, and, safe to make a mistake, to fall, to learn.
Yeah. It's really cool what you guys are doing. I said earlier, I think having access to this stuff at a price point that is digestible is so needed in this industry, let alone backcountry skiing. Like downhill skiing, people a lot of times can be, borrow skis from a buddy or figure out some way, and they just need to get a lift taken. They'll go up there with a friend and kind of learn. But backcountry skiing is like, or just uphill skiing and touring or splitboarding can be like a daunting thing. And I love that no left behind sort of thing, because when you're touring in groups, there's always that one guy that's just like huffing up the mountain, and everyone's kind of like, what the heck, we wanted to hang out with you and talk to you, but
Mm-hmm.
they're I love that idea that we're not leaving anyone behind. It's cool, we'll take a break, enjoy the views, you're in a beautiful place, like kick back, come on, we're fine, and then we'll get up. And
Absolutely.
that's a really cool way of doing it, because I've even gone out with people, or I get this all the time. Anytime I meet somebody new, they're like, "Oh, I'm not that good at skiing." I'm like, "Great, let's go up to Mary Jane. Let's go up to Winter Park. Let's go ski some laps, have some fun." And they're like, "No, you're gonna be like so much faster than me. You're gonna leave me in the dust." And it's like, no, it's like I ski fast and film and all this stuff all the time. Like, let's just go cruise. Let's have
Yeah,
fun on
I'm
some
not going
groovers.
out with you to go and ski hard and do that. I'm going out with
Yeah,
you because I want to enjoy this time and the experience shared with that individual.
Yeah,
I definitely
exactly.
very much relate to that, and
Yeah,
especially I do like a lot of running on my own time, and I'll get a
yeah,
lot of friends that are like, "Oh, I don't want to slow you down," and it's like I'm not going with you. Like if I want to go, like I'm going to put headphones in and hate myself by myself, trying to push really hard. But like I'm asking to go with you guys because I want to enjoy company. I want to be out there with friends or the people you want to share that with.
yeah.
Um, I think
On
it's
that,
so important.
it is. And on that topic, for example, I called my friend Caroline, and she listens to the podcast, so I'm sure she'll hear this. But I called her the other day, and I'm like, "Hey, let's go out for a gravel ride," because she's training for this like crazy gravel race in Kansas, actually this weekend.
Yeah,
And
Unbound.
yeah, Unbound. Yeah, that's it.
I'm a bit of
Um,
an endurance junkie myself in
yeah,
my personal time, so definitely familiar with a lot of that stuff. That's awesome. I'm rooting
yeah,
for her.
yeah. Caroline, I know you're listening, so we're cheering you on. Uh, Anyways, I called her up and I was like, "Hey, let's go for a gravel ride." She's like, "Oh, I'm doing like a big one today. I'm doing a 40-mile loop, and I think I might try and do it twice, get 80 miles in to like try and match what I'm doing for the race in Kansas." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go out there and do one lap with you." And she was like, "I love you. I would love to ride with you, but this is the time I need to like put in the headphones and absolutely destroy my body and like prove to myself that I can do this." And I was like, "Heard, heard."
Yep.
So there's like, there's a time and place for everything. Like people will reach out and say, let's go skiing. We've got this objective. We want to boot pack this couloir. It's like that's a certain group that I
Yep.
ski with. And then there's like everyday friends of mine that are like, I want to ski with you, but I don't because you're going to leave me in the dust. And it's like, no, actually, I could use some chill laps inbounds where
Oh yeah.
my amygdala is like significantly lowered, and I'm going up a chairlift, and there's beautiful views, and I'm in a comfy insulated jacket. Like, there's a time and place for everything, and that's something I've become ever more apparent of in the outdoor industry as a whole, climbing, biking, skiing, whatever, that people that haven't been involved in it from like an early age, and maybe they started getting involved in after college or in college or whatever, they think that they're like so far behind everyone else. And in all reality, they probably aren't. And that creates that other like barrier of entry. Like maybe they can afford it and like all these things, but they don't want to do it because they don't want to like quote unquote embarrass themselves.
Hmm.
And I think that's another part of like what you're doing is so cool that people don't want to feel embarrassed. So they're not going to ask you, or they're not going to ask me, be like, "Hey, will you go out with me this weekend? And I bought these backcountry skis, but I'm like scared, that I'm going to be embarrassing or whatever." So taking away that other barrier of entry within inclusive ski touring is that's awesome, because I feel like that's a fear for a lot of people getting into any level of action or endurance or outdoor sports, is that they feel like they're not going to be good enough. And I, even with like biking, I feel like such a fraud sometimes. I literally got a bike sponsor this year, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, but I was out on the trail yesterday, and I'm wearing a t-shirt and like basketball shorts, and all these guys are in, they're in their whole gear, and I look like a total gaper, and I'm just out there, but I'm having the time of my life. And when I just put in the headphones, no matter what sport I'm doing, I think I've gotten to that point where it's like, I don't care if I'm not as good as you. Like, it's we're out here like all for the same reason. And I think sometimes for some people it is like a fashion show, or who's tougher than who, but that's not how I look at it. So if people want to be like non-inclusive or something, fuck them, go do your own thing, man. Like, so
No, I
anyway.
mean, I think it's important for us all to have, days for ourselves. And there's certainly days that I'm going out and skiing with friends or an objective. And it's like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't want to, like for myself, I'm very particular with who I'm going to ski with in avalanche terrain or for like a larger objective. But at the same point in time, you gotta, be able to pay it forward and share that with others, and be able to get out and, uh, really have our own dose of humility, and play that mentor role to some extent as well sometimes. And
Yeah.
with our programs, one of the things that's most special in my mind, that's really something that we don't actually do, but really just provide the space for, is seeing the friendships that develop. It'll be people who, are around the same sort of level, or the same ability, that same sort of dauntedness, to who get out and connect with each other. Last year, a day that really stood out for me, was a day that I was going to go ski on Mount Washington. I was just going to take a couple laps down lower, headphones in. I had a long week, and I was not in a social mood, to say the least. I did not have enough coffee, and it was like 6:30 in the morning in the parking lot, and I was not in the mood to talk to anybody. But a group of girls started walking over, or they were walking by, and then it seemed like they were walking over, and it got to the point that I realized they were coming to talk to me, and I was just not in the mood. I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this right. Like, I was not trying to be social or anything, and they just wanted to walk up, and they were like, like, oh, are you so and so? Like, you do the inclusive ski touring stuff. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do. We all met through the women's program that you guys host, and we all like connected, and like created this friendship through this program. And now this is our first time going out backcountry skiing, like all of our first time backcountry skiing, and we're going out together. And we
Oh
just wanted to say
man.
thank you for doing what you're doing. And like that, I mean, I was in a crusty mood that morning, and
Yeah.
that completely changed everything around. And really, it's a day that will, just a little interaction that'll sit with me for quite a long time. But it just felt incredibly special, and was eye opening to see like the impact is so much beyond what we see day of, but it's the friendships that develop, the community that gets created, and the opportunities that arise for a lot of people who get out and who put themselves out there a little bit. But it is hard to do so.
Yeah. That gave me like goosebumps when you're saying that. That's so cool. That and I'm sure in that moment, and still to this day, you probably get some level of like everything that you're doing and all the hard work. It Those are the things that make it feel like it's worth it. Um,
Oh, absolutely. It's the little
like
interactions. And
yeah, the you were saying like you turn this into your full time gig and it's terrifying. I can't imagine like that. That is a, a terrifying thing, and that was a leap that I made within my own career when I got laid off. It was like jumping into the self employment, sort of like building my own quote unquote brand was like, yeah, it's terrifying. Um, but I just had the skier Drew Peterson on the podcast yesterday, and we were talking about how he's got a film coming out about his story of like mental health and his struggles and suicidal ideations. And he's like, I don't make any money from this, man. Like, I'm working my ass off creating this film and all of these different endeavors. But he was like, at the end of the day, it's when we go on a premiere tour and we premiere this movie, that one person that walks up and is like, hey, you have no idea what all of this meant to me. Um, that makes it all worth it. That even if you feel like you're not helping anyone, if it helps one person, then it was worth it. Uh, and
absolutely. And I
yeah,
like to remind ourselves, like, at the end of the day, we're talking about skiing here. Like, this is a fun outdoor recreation. Like, we're not curing cancer, we're not saving lives, or
yeah,
but the mental health side of things, and what it does for all of us who are passionate about skiing or snowboarding, or just getting out and enjoying that outdoor recreation, is so much, provides so much value, that's just really intrinsic to our lives. And it sticks with what's important, and then sharing that with the people who are important to you, and then having those shared experiences. Like, to me, that those are the opportunities that are what makes things worth living. And when you get to see that impact, or realize, in Drew's case, like, speaking for myself, anxiety is something that I've struggled with a lot in my life. And uh, you know I've spoken with a therapist with in the past. And
yeah,
things from him, like, were have been inspiring to me. And seeing other people who are in a position of exposure, we'll say, just like within their own lives, to be able to open up and share those sorts of stories that are so impactful. Then looking at the professional skier side of things, like there's so many of those individuals, or these individuals who are going out, and I think there's some misconceptions on like, oh, these guys are living the life or they're doing it, but the financial compensation is only so much. These individuals are by no means set for lives, and the risk that they're putting themselves in any given situation, or filming for a movie, and it's substantial. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time, it's not a am I going to break my bone situation? It's like, no, there is a life or death risk, and you can't put a price tag on that. But when you can change somebody else's life, um,
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. It's impactful, man. It was a joy talking with Drew. He is for pun totally intended. He's moving mountains, and shifting the dial on like a very ignored topic in outdoor sports. Uh, so you are too, man. Like you're going against the grain in an industry that the dial of entry just keeps rising, and it's I mean, if you lived here in Denver and wanted to go skiing at Vail for a weekend with your one kid, good luck.
Yep.
Like, even if you're making good money, like, it is a huge expense, and you're going against the grain in an industry that is increasing price tags year in and year out. The passes get more expensive, the day tickets get more expensive, and they outrun inflation like tenfold. And the fact that you're doing the opposite and finding partners and people that are willing to get involved to try and push against the grain and make a difference, that's inspiring, man. So I
On that note too, I absolutely have to use that as an invitation to, like the partners who, like our core partner for inclusive ski touring in the past couple of years has been Blizzard and Technica. They've gotten involved with us from really the start. I was lucky enough to connect with some individuals over there, and before we really had the information or the data to support what we were trying to do, they really believed in what we were trying to do, and in myself as well. And have really helped see this vision come to life, and help provide a lot of support there. And at the same note in time, I have no official affiliation with them or anything beyond working with them during my time at Mount Abram. But LL Bean is an organization that's really working against the grain as far as outdoor accessibility goes. And that program at Mount Abram was just one program as a part of their Winter Across Maine program. A gentleman there, Bill Yo, who's the head of their community engagement, or he's the community engagement coordinator, I believe. He's an absolutely incredible individual. He's a role model to me, a mentor of sorts to me, and someone who I really look up to. But he is making waves as far as outdoor accessibility goes. In really every sort of facet of that, as far or within accessibility, and then beyond that, he spent the first 40 years of his life traveling around the world. He's bike packed around the Himalayas, and
wow.
he was the base camp manager at Denali for a bunch of years, and I don't know, he just always tells me something else new when I see him, and I'm like, oh, no surprise now, you're going to tell me you did this or whatever. And he's just an incredible individual, but really does a lot of work, and has the support of an amazing company that makes some of that stuff happen. And those are the sort of programs that are inspiring to me, and that I want to see more of in the world, and that I think
Yeah.
really make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing up those partners because that says a lot about not only a brand but the industry as a whole. Um, it's it's an interesting industry that we're in right now because, for example, without sharing too many details, we've been making a push to work on a film ourselves about kind of my story and two other professional skiers that I won't mention, but that have struggled with substance abuse and mental health. And some companies and a lot of the industry is like making a push for like, yeah, let's talk about these things. This is good and let's do that. Or maybe some brands don't even think it's good, but it's like the cool thing to talk about right now, maybe. Or it looks good on paper. And then there's brands that are like, ooh, like it's a taboo subject. They don't want to associate with it. Or there's brands that are like all in, like Blizzard and Technica, that were like saw your vision before there was anything really to see and believed in what you were trying to do, and we're like, let's do this, let's jump in, let's make this thing possible. So I think that's awesome that they're working with you guys. Where do you see inclusive ski touring going over the next few years? An expansion of the program? Are you wanting to stay in the Northeast? Like, what's your big dream for this?
Yeah, I mean, if we're putting on the visionary hat and just sort of dreaming big,
Yeah,
my dream in the next 5 years would be to have programs across the East Coast. The
yeah,
problem isn't getting a program set up everywhere; it's having the volunteer management and like the facilitation to ensure that each program can be successful and that there's individuals to help provide these opportunities.
yeah,
And then having the right resorts to work with as well.
yeah,
But so really hoping to continue expanding on that over the next couple of years and just creating a larger geographic reach so our programs can reach more individuals, as well as being able to provide more opportunities specifically geared towards underrepresented athletes. Those are like one metric I'm really incredibly proud of from this past season, is that 18% of our participants were people of color. In the state of Maine in particular, I believe, and this is a rough guess, but I believe it's 6% of the population is people of color. Um, it's at least below 10%. I am absolutely certain of that, and the amount that we are able to outweigh certain statistics on that and be able to provide opportunities for individuals who don't typically have opportunity or who aren't represented within the outdoor community and provide safe and accessible spaces is something that we really want to expand on and continuing putting some more effort in.
yeah,
If I, shift towards the 10-year plan side of things, it'd be to continue to, grow and expand programs and start to get programs spread out really across the country. And, get some locations going in different states, across the Midwest, across the West Coast, and seeing kind of what else might be possible. But we have a lot of work to do to get there. And one of the biggest struggles on my side is the financial sustainability model. Really not wanting to put everything on participants and just charge individuals a bunch of money to be able to, join these programs. And at the same point in time, the amount of time that goes into coordinating these programs and managing the volunteers and providing the training necessary and making sure that everything is set up and taken care of is very substantial and continuing to grow more and more. Um,
yeah,
and being able to find out how we can support those programs to make things more sustainable, be it through grant support or additional partners to help work with us on that side of things, is something that'll be really necessary to help see these programs grow. For like an example on the financial side of things, if I like we've gone in and looked at average pricing or like a median pricing of similar like just a learn to ski tour program across the country, and it's about $77, or $73. So like from a sheer financial perspective or numbers perspective, our program is $53 cheaper than the average cost of a program that's remotely similar, that we provide more value outside of specifically that than any other program in the country. And so, sort of using that metric, we're able to show that we really subsidized our programs this year to the amount of, it's just shy of $40,000. So, if we're able to raise the amount of money that our programs are subsidized to, then we could, really be able to. I actually wouldn't know what to do. We'd be able to start really giving back or doing more, providing scholarships. But even if we could raise half of the money that we provide towards subsidies to be able to make these programs or make the organization more sustainable so we continue to grow and expand, that'll really be the key piece into seeing our future success.
yeah. Well, it is possible. And I think just in 45 minutes of talking to you, uh, if there's anyone that's going to be able to figure this out, it sounds like it's you. And it's awesome that you've put everything into it. Terrifying. A,
That's
a,
why I took the leap. I'm excited about it, but we're gonna see where it can go, and it's the time in my life to give it a shot. So
yeah. Uh, so with inclusive ski touring, how do people get in contact with you or get in contact with the program? Everything is online, I'm assuming.
yeah, so to learn more about inclusive ski touring specifically, our programs, what we do, our impact, what we offer, you should head over to inclusiveskitouring.org. Yeah, all the information is right there. Again, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So if there are organizations out there who hear this and are interested in what we're doing, we'd certainly love to have more potential partners or see how we could work together. If you are on social media and you want to connect with us there, that's just at Inclusive Ski Touring. Or for myself, it's just at Z McCart. If someone out there has any random questions or touring questions, feel free to send either me or Inclusive Ski Touring a message. Always happy to answer there and help provide any thoughts or try to get more people out into the backcountry or into ski touring or splitboarding. And then, outside of that, email is really our main point of contact. And it's just info@inclusiveskitouring.com, or my personal email is Zach, ZACH, at inclusiveskitouring.com.
Sweet, man. Well, I know that there is a demographic of people that listen to this from the Northeast. I built a big community of friends and skiers and individuals out there that listen to this, and I know it's it's an interesting thing. When I was living in Maine, Portland especially, that was a very small community that I could find that were like actually wanting to uphill ski. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
always excited to connect with new like-minded individuals. It's like
yeah,
if you're local to the area and you like to do this sort of thing, I
yeah.
want to want to be able to connect.
And I know that there's people that want to get into it and haven't from that area solely because of all the reasons we talked about. Just not those barriers to entry, whether it's cost or fear or whatever it may be. Um, like I was saying, like out here on the West Coast, it's like so big and common. You drive up, 30 minutes from Denver here, and it's almost June, and the road is just packed with hundreds of cars, of people just getting after their spring objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those people probably don't even have education around like what they're getting themselves into. Um, but it's become like that, the common thing that like, okay, let's get into backcountry skiing. But if you don't have friends or a community or people around you to teach you what you're doing, it creates that barrier to entry, which I think I was seeing a lot in Maine. Um, so super stoked on what you guys are doing. Super grateful for the partners and you for actually making this thing possible, because uh, it definitely is not easy. And so I tip my cap to you. I know the listeners tip their cap to you. And with the Falling Off the Floor podcast, I always leave a couple minutes at the end if there's anything you want to share, uh, personally, tips, inclusive ski touring, whatever. I call it the burning desires. So uh, if there's anything you want to share with the audience before we sign off here, the floor is yours.
I'd just love to say that I am incredibly appreciative for everybody who helps make this happen. This was an idea that I had and something that I wanted to see come to life and that I've put a lot of work into come to life, but it didn't just happen by myself. I'm incredibly lucky to have a really supportive and amazing board of directors who helped make this organization possible. I mentioned it earlier, but we had over 60 volunteers this past season. Those are the individuals who are the reason that our group programs are possible and that we're really able to make these accessible and provide these opportunities. So without those sorts of individuals who believe in what we're doing and who really want to get behind this community, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be where we are. And to the same extent, the brands who have worked with us or who have supported us, who want to get involved, they really help make that difference. And it's the participants who come out as well, the people who join the programs, who show up, that really bring this special sort of community together. When you get so many like-minded individuals together to all bond over something that they love and care about in the outdoors, what happens in that space is truly magical.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for everybody who's supportive of what we're doing, who believes in this vision, for individuals like yourself who want to see this and think it's amazing, and who want to support it and help spread the word and share the story. It takes a community to make these things happen. And for anybody who wants to start something or has an idea or wants to do something in the outdoor industry, like, my advice would be to give it a shot, to make it happen.
Yeah.
Humble yourself. Remember that it's just skiing, or it's just the outdoor industry. It's just recreation. And there's a lot of amazing people out there that if you reach out and you say, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I have this idea that's stemming from a place of genuine caring, I there's not many people who aren't willing to get back or try to help out or do what they can. The limiting factor might be how much time they have or what they can offer.
Yeah.
But I think if you're trying to do something for the community or something that provides opportunity or access, people really try to get behind it and support you. So it's made me feel incredibly lucky for all the individuals that I've gotten to meet and connect with, and who have supported me throughout this process and help bring inclusive ski touring to life.
Heck yeah, man. You you hit the nail on the head. Uh, I am also appreciative of all those people. I don't know any of them, but I'm stoked if you're listening that you're helping this thing come true. And I hope that this can make it to a place like Colorado sometime, and that you have incredible success with this because it's so needed. So thank you for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate you sharing this with us. This is the whole reason that I have this podcast, is to highlight cool people in the ski industry and beyond. Uh, so keep doing what you're doing, man. I hope that everything that you hope and dream this thing turns into, it does, and keep working at it because it will, even when it's scary. So thank you.
Well,
And
thank you so much, Austin.
yeah, you got it,
I
man.
really appreciate you having me on the podcast here. And, if you're ever in Maine, certainly reach out. I'd love to get together. And if I'm in Colorado, I'll certainly send you a message and see if we can't make something happen.
Yeah, we'll get out for a tour, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And to all the listeners, thank you as always. Falling Off the Floor podcast, we are out.